Welcome back to Wedlocked and Loaded.
Wedlocked and loaded.
You women.
Do not lump us all in one category.
So you girls, and lie and stretch the truth and try
girls,
to get us jammed up.
First of all, I'm a whole ass woman, right? Think about
no
that.
No disrespect.
Sounds like it to me. So why can't y'all, what is it with men that they just can't walk away?
Depends how good it is. You don't want to give that away.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Wedlocked and Loaded. I'm Daniel Laurent holding it down. You know what it is. Leah is out somewhere shopping or getting in trouble or booking a trip or flight or coming back from a flight or, insert here. That's I was going to swear. That's the stuff we go back and forth with. But for this episode, we want to highlight and kind of cross-collaborate with Beat the Odds. And they have, and we spoke about it before. We shouted them out and alluded to it. But the episode finally was released yesterday. So Beat the Odds, they have a series called Red Flags and Roses. And so Leah and myself were guests on it. Along with, some other really, really dope people who were on past episodes. But we want an episode that just came out. You'll be hearing this on Wednesday, June 5th. Our episode just released on Tuesday, June 4th. So we wanted to share it. And I think, it goes a little long, so we're going to cut it into two parts. So it depends on how you want to experience this. If you want to hear it in two parts, audio, great. If you want to see the visual, which is actually really dope, it's shot really, really well. Really impressed. Please go over to their YouTube page. I believe it is, let me just double check in real time. I believe it is Beat the Odds. Is it Beat the Odds or BTO? BTO Boston? BTO Boston. No. What the hell, man? Red Flags and Roses. Red Flags and Roses. Red Flags and Roses. Oh, so it's Red Flags and Roses. My apologies. So if you go to YouTube and search Red Flags and Roses, you will see it. And the episode with Leah and myself is episode 3. So, really, really dope. Again, feel free to enjoy this experience however you like. If you want to do audio, this will be 2 parts, or if you want to watch the video straight through, feel free to go over to YouTube and enjoy it that way. Shout out to Beat the Odds. Again, unbelievable experience. So impressed with the young people and the questions that they had and the attention and the attention and intention behind it. So dope, and I believe Beat the Odds is in partnership with Casa Marino that does a lot of work in the domestic violence space. And so the whole series is about literally red flags and roses, right? So how to identify, which is considered a red flag, which is considered a rose. And it's just more advocacy, it's just another way. And I love that we were contacted about being a part of it, and we actually did it, seen it through, and it's an unbelievable episode. Shout out to Justin over at Justin Springer over at Rhythm and Raps also. So without further ado, I did enough talking. We're gonna cross collaborate and share this episode. And again, thank you to everyone that listens to us, likes, shares, comments. Please feel free to go over to YouTube, subscribe to their page. If you go on Instagram, I believe, let me just do this one last little piece before I shut up. Now I don't see it. because why would it be there? Why would it be there? Yeah, so on Instagram, it's actually BTO Boston. And so you will be able to subscribe to that page. I don't know if they have a Red Flags and Roses Instagram. Oh, they do actually. So official Red Flags and Roses is the Instagram handle that you can follow also. All right, so we will see y'all. Well, next week will be the second part of this, and then we'll have dialogue. We have something really, really juicy and interesting for the following week. So we will see y'all soon enough. Be well, be kind, be the change that you want to see in the world, and make sure you identify properly red flags and roses. It literally can be life and death, life or death. All right, with love, we'll see y'all when we see y'all. Yeah.
I might be falling deep. 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 Tell me now what you need. I'll be going to bed whenever you realize I might be falling deep. I might be falling deep. I might be falling deep.
Welcome back to our podcast, Red Flags and Roses. My name is Jenny.
Hi, I'm Sonya from BTO.
On the boards today, we have Nick from BTO, and our special guests today are Leah and Daniel. Yeah, welcome to the show, our first couple, actually. So, they're filmmakers, community leaders, and most importantly, domestic violence advocates. So, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So today is our first interview with a couple. So let's start with you both sharing a little about yourselves and what your superpower would be.
Superpower. You can go first. No. Yours would be talk a lot, but go ahead.
A little about myself. So I'm an artist, writer, creative, and just want to make a difference in the world. And I feel, you know, we all have our born date and our death date, and then we have that little, you know, hyphen in the middle, right? So for me, it's important of what that hyphen is. And, you know, I'm called activist. I don't consider myself that, but community advocate for sure. Father, husband, all that good stuff. Superpower is I've learned a certain amount of patience, just enough to not blow my top. And I think being able to tolerate her is the biggest superpower ever, because it's just tough, you know? So
you're doing all right.
And I'm starting to show that way. So yeah, now we go. Red flags and roses.
Yeah.
Clearly, he's shown you my superpower, because it takes a certain kind of person to be able to deal with him. Anyway, I am too a creative. I'm a mom of 3. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an educator, an avid traveler. And my superpower would be, I just have a keen eye for great things.
And this is a great moment, indeed. You guys make such a beautiful couple, and wow, like just to be in your presence is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I think if I had a superpower, it would be to like pick up on people's emotions and like be able to vibe off of that. What about you, Sonya? What would your superpower be?
To turn my nails into nachos and then eat them and they'll return.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you know what? That's a valid answer. Moving on, Nick, why don't you tell us the hot topic of the day?
So yeah, today's hot topic of the day is polyamorous. What are you guys' thoughts on polyamorous relationships?
You know,
TMI.
Definitely for them. No, just kidding. I think
I'm not.
whatever, whatever works for you. Do you. Whatever works for you.
That's your answer?
That's my answer.
You don't have anything spicy to...
I mean, do you want to get into it?
So I am fascinated by the idea of it. I'm fascinated by the lifestyle. I admire the amount of honesty that the couples that's in that are able to share, right? Because I think in relationships, people say, oh, I want honesty and no lies and I want transparency. And it's like, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if you want all the honesty, right? And so from what I have talked to people that's in that, it's just brutal honesty, but it's free flowing. So if we're together and it's like, hey babe, I'll see you later, I'm going on a date tonight. Now there's different levels where like there's different levels of in different relationships where it may not be like the graphic details when I come back home of what happened, right? But it could just simply be she knows that I'm out on a date, right? And that's openness. But in a regular relationship, that just doesn't fly. I got to tell her where I'm going, who I'm with, when I'll be back, what car I'm driving. She needs to smell me when I get back home. And it's just like, so, cheers to all the polys.
Shout out to Polly.
The big P.
It's different for everybody, just like how relationships are different for everybody, right? So what if you guys had a children and they were into a polyamorous relationship? Would you support them? Because in our generation, this is something that's very more accepting, I think, more accepting than like what was accepted during like the previous generations. So if you were to raise a kid and they were involved in a polyamorous relationship, would you support them? And if so, how?
I think for me, just with anything, my thing is always whatever you're choosing, be safe, right? It's nothing I could, it's not, I mean, everybody don't come home. That's for certain, right? Everybody does not get to walk through this threshold. Like, you'll figure it out, but everybody doesn't come home. And whatever you choose to do, just make sure you're safe with it. I can't say don't do it.
I mean, that's the cleaner version of what I would say. So we'll go with that. I had something else. We'll save that for like red flags and roses after dark. Exactly. It's confirmed. Yeah.
All right, well, what about you, Nick and Sonia? What are your thoughts about polyamorous relationships? We belong in the new generation, if you would.
Well, I guess I would challenge that. What does it mean to you? What does polyamory mean to you?
I guess for me personally, polyamory definitely does go along the line of like trust. To be able to hold that kind of intimacy willingly with multiple different people and share their boundaries of what intimacy means as well. Because intimacy might mean something to me and it might mean something completely different to someone else, to another person. That's just one person. Then saying, okay, I am also open to understanding and growing into the definition of intimacy with another person as well and their versions of it, and then kind of maintaining your sanity through it all, emotionally, physically, mentally. I think it definitely does take a lot of courage. So shout out the polys out there.
Yeah, they're real MVPs. If you really want to, I mean, salute. I mean, hats off. I don't have a hat. Hats off.
We should try it.
Ooh.
Let's see how long your hat stays off.
All right, guys. So is this the end of the show?
Definitely going back to Sonia's point about like having that trust, it definitely takes a lot of commitment and time, because just being in a relationship, just one person, is already difficult enough. Like that communication and like the time you have to dedicate to each other. Now add on another person. That just like feels like it's even more challenging. But if that's what you're into, then yeah.
I think it's also kind of like interesting to emphasize, like polyamorous does mean like it's not just being in a relationship with multiple different people, but being in a relationship with multiple different relationships, in a sense, and understandings of that relationship. So you might be, let's say, like you are in a heterosexual relationship. That's one relationship, and the next relationship is a bisexual relationship, and then the next relation, and that's just one form. That's just like one kind of like, not categorization, I think that's not necessarily the best word, but one kind of understanding of how a relationship can work. Then you have one where it's like their love languages, like our love language is touch, all right? But then another one, our love language is strictly spending time with each other. And then the next one, our love language is strictly giving gifts to each, you know what I mean? And it's like now you have so many different processes of intimacy. And I think like it's not even, and then also you probably have a relationship with one person who's like, all right, this is just us, and then another one where it's like, all right, but I got my bro too and my friend, and then they got their friend, and now you in the whole family tree, and it's like just so many different aspects. Because I think it is kind of important to emphasize, like even when we think of like polyamorous is so poly that it's kind of hard to
Put it in a box,
exactly.
Right? I do like what you said in terms of intimacy, right? And everybody has an idea or their own version of what intimacy is. And I think for some people, most people, they misconstrue intimacy with actually having sex. And it's not always about sex, right? It's just that deeper connection. It's that chemistry, you know? So I like the way you put that part.
But there has to be honesty. Otherwise, it's just, just messing around. And it's not about sex at all. Like that, and I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I've heard from people that are in it. Like, it's a different, deeper level of understanding.
There's definitely a lot of misconceptions about like polyamorous relationships that society is now exploring and like trying to understand better. So we're heading towards a better direction, if you will. And speaking of transitions, let's talk about relationships now. So how long have you guys been married? And can you guys like share a little bit of your first experiences with each other? Was it love at first sight? What was it?
He was definitely loving on a kid at first sight. We've been married.
How do you say that though before you answer?
Easy, I did. We've been married. How long we been married?
Too long.
You right.
But like,
answer the question.
Almost. The guys never answer this.
You got
so this
it.
Is a setup.
I have complete trust in you. You have
almost
this.
12 years.
Okay, when will it be 12 years?
Next week, May 29th.
Okay, so almost a little week and a half. You got it. You all right.
Okay. See, I like.
Now here's a trick question: how long have we been together?
Way too long.
I agree, but that's not what they asked.
23, 24.
Okay.
I said 23.
Yeah.
Because I think that doesn't count.
Okay.
Because I was actually entertaining poly, but it wasn't a label of it.
Bye,
so
boy.
The idea was I thought I was trying to like figure it out, but I couldn't put my hand on it. Now I'll be much more prepared. If we were to start over, I'll be much more prepared to like indulge in poly, right?
So
But
funny.
I think at the time I was ahead of my time.
I guess we both were, and so when I was calling you,
no guy ever wants to hear that.
Oh, I'm calling you like, yo, what's up? What's good? You
Okay.
busy?
I know.
Oh, okay. I am go check my homie out.
Next question.
And who was blowing up the phone?
Red flag.
Oh,
gross. Jeez Louise.
Okay. So, you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. But was it love at first sight? I mean, we were in high school together. We were in debate class, and I ended up writing her a note. And as corny as it may sound, and like cliche now, and I think people probably just slide in DMs, right? But I wrote her a note like, "Will you go out with me? Yes or no?" And I think she circled maybe or something smart. She got a smart mouth.
I wrote maybe in circle.
You know what I mean? Like I asked you very specifically, yes or no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. So and in hindsight, that should have been
a red flag for you.
A red flag back then of like, damn, this is what I'm getting into, you know? But we often overlook things, right? And they're all rosy. See how I did the play.
No, but the way you guys communicate, like, that's something only couples can do. Like if you guys were just strangers on the street and that happened, it would not turn good. But like the way you guys are communicating, it's like very healthy, and you guys address issues if there are any. So applaud you for that.
Thank
And
you.
our next question would be, together you have a podcast titled Wetlocked and Loaded. Okay. How do you find the courage to be so open together, and how do you turn your trauma into beautiful art?
Do you want to answer?
I usually,
I'm just letting you. You know what I'm saying?
I'm literally trying to learn.
Oh,
to-
to be quiet.
That's not what I was
Oh,
going to say.
I'm sorry.
But I'm trying to like be the background extra.
That's
Yeah.
not easy for you.
She named the podcast, by the way, so I have to give her the credit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to give her the credit when it's due.
I think just being together for so long. Well, a few things, right? So, people that are typically around us, they're always like, "You guys need your own show," right? And never really was like my thing. Like I was always private. I liked my relationship to be private. But I think I got to a point when I was like, you know what? I'm actually open to this idea, and that's just. We've been through so much, some in public, some not so public. And I think that just the things that we've been through, people don't necessarily talk about it, right? And they don't talk about actually working through those issues. And I just felt like it was time to actually put that forward.
And my asterisk to that statement is, she had talked about it a while ago. And I just feel that we were still in a space of repair, and it was still like there was a lot of like triggers, right? And what I didn't want to do was have a podcast entertaining the public, but then the house is burning down. And so our detriment is everyone's entertainment. So I put it off for a while, and I'm like, because we would like, I started it, and then she adapted to it, which I have a problem with. But I would go into where I wouldn't speak. Like, I just would stop talking to her. And at first, it bothered her, and she was like, how... Then she started adapting it, and so we would go, literally, we live in the same house, sleep in the same bed. We would go, like, a week without speaking.
That might be a bit much.
I feel like longer than that.
No.
I mean, we would say, like, bye or see you later, but we wouldn't talk. So, and it was a situation we could have, during the pandemic, we got cast for, it was a reality show that this doctor was doing. And it was interesting. And it may have been interesting, but I think just my experience in music and entertainment and film got me to the point of asking certain questions. Right. And so, questions of like ownership and perpetuity and, back end or percentages or any of that. And the answers she was given was just really like, no, that, I mean, I'm like, and I thought it would have been a great thing for Leah, because this, I think, was at the turning point of her being a little more open. But, my mind just works, and and I see Nipsey on a wall. Like, my mind works in more of a ownership, equity kind of space. You know what I'm saying? And I believe in bartering, but I don't believe in just like, here, have everything of mine and do what you wish. Like, I'm past that point. So, that's where the podcast came from. In all of our years of therapy, now every couple feels like they're ready to go to therapy, that they are vulnerable enough to go to therapy, that they need therapy. So what we wanted to do was have a show that's entertaining, and we talk like friends. So even the way we're talking now, like it's, you have some married couples, it's like very, and you won't even discuss poly in front, it's like, so we wanted to intertwine the entertainment, the therapy tools that we learned, and just try to like merge them and give it to people, that things that could be helpful. So that's the point of the show. We want to just be helpful and not just, be silly all the time. Even though like a lot of times when Leah's interrupting me when I'm trying to make a valid point, it's just like, damn, like it ruined it. You know what I mean? She steps all over my,
So how do you guys juggle being in a relationship while also pursuing a career?
I don't know if we do. You know.
It's a difficult question.
You know.
I think after a while, it just comes natural, right?
Yeah.
Like you wake up, forgive me, but it's like Groundhog's Day every single day. Like you just gotta get up, and you just have to do certain things, right? I think just being able to have open and honest dialogue with each other, it also helps, right? But we just do it because we have to. We have to go to work because we need money, right? The way society is set up, right? Like having one stream of income or one person working don't really work that way, right? Like we got a household, we got kids, like, oh, we got to go get this money and we need to put our money together and we need to figure it out. And
So it's more like a learn as you go type of thing.
It's more like a go as you go type of thing.
Because you gotta go. Yeah, I feel it.
But to that point, I think Leah now, and it's beautiful to watch, right? But now Leah is leaning more into the business of her, right? And I think it's a matter of like I think when it comes to like looking at her, like when she's figuring out like costs, because she does event planning. She reupholstered a couch on New Year's Eve one year, which was ridiculous. She does hair. She makes baskets and custom, edible treats and all types of stuff. But actually seeing her break down, like, okay, well, if I pay for this, and then this, what's my profit margin, and blah, 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 and, and business cards, and then like LLC, and just, it's really just beautiful to watch that. Because I think before it was a lot of like, go, and kind of do it on the side a little bit sometimes, and may not really make any profit, but I love doing it.
I always made a profit. The problem was, anything that I did outside of my regular 9 to 5 required me to bring in product into the house. So he is a true Virgo, true and out, right?
Shout out to all the Virgos. And when I say,
so I'm talking. I'm talking.
Nori.
I'm talking. So the problem was that the product and during my creative time and space, it wasn't always neat and tidy, right? So like that was an issue. Like right now my house is a mess. I'm getting ready for a few events, and there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of packages being delivered. It's a lot of things happening. But as I grew, he grew, right? He's no longer complaining out loud anyway, right?
Yeah, I suffer in silence. Red flags and roses. Yeah.
So
I just try to, she hears me. I mean, depending on what it is, like if I'm walking in the house and I trip over a box, that just doesn't help my day if I'm already frustrated. So I might, but again, I think she hears, and I fundamentally believe that things have a place. It's not a matter of me walking around the house with a white glove on and checking for dust, right?
he does that too,
That's not the case. But I'm a person where like my car is a reflection of me, in a sense of, if I see anyone and it's like, hey, you want to ride? I don't have to be like, hold on 1 second, and you got to take a bunch of socks and cashew nuts and
so don't do
plastic
that.
water bottles and throw them. Like, you can just get in, you can sit down. It doesn't smell like feet. It doesn't smell like gym socks.
Sir, it's also sounding like you're implying that my car.
No.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure that we get
flags.
that very clear.
So, but again, to put a button on it, I think that the entrepreneur part is something that we have done for a long time, and our kids have seen it, And so our daughter lived in that and absorbed it. And so she, at the age that she is, it's her story, but whatever. Nah, I'm not fun. So she, right? Well, she's 25, right? Royalty.co, that's her business. And so she's a certified esthetician, licensed esthetician. She's a certified lash technician.
She's licensed everything.
And she also does makeup, and she has her own actual boutique shop at 25, right? Which is like, even in the worst of our days where we're like frustrated, we're trying to figure it out, or we're trying to, steal from, what's the saying? Rob Peter to pay Paul, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, we'll look, and she actually has her own business that she's going to, and she has her hours, and she has clients, and it's like, wow, like we did that. You know what I'm saying? So without our struggle, and you just think about how many parents, and it's no knock on other people, but how many parents just get up and go to work and come home, get up, go to work, come home, and there's no entrepreneurship and ownership in the air.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's just a real living testament of the hustle that we have, and also being open about it. Because our parents never were open about, filing taxes or being audited and having to pay money back, and what that feels like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think the openness of the mistakes is just as valuable as showing what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I want to know, can y'all share an experience where y'all encountered red flags?
Together or
Separately, individually, you feel me?
it just happened when we walked in the door. Right, babe?
You're right.
I know.
Go ahead. You still like
Red flags to get
He
Don't
said
gotta be
not
together. Just, you feel me, in general. Any red flags?
I think red flags. There's probably a bunch. I think one, I dated someone who would say often, you make me happy. Like, when I'm not with you, I'm not happy. And at the time, it's like,
ego booster, but
Yeah,
then
but
it's
like,
let's delve deeper. Why
it's
is
like
that the case?
Like, that's ultimate red flag, right? But at the time, it's like, or I'm trying to. That's probably one I could think of.
My red flag, definitely, it was my first high school boyfriend, and I would be at his house. Of course, I have curfew, and he would, whenever like, I'm about to leave, he'd be like, oh no, like, stay, whatever. And I'm like, dog, I gotta get home. Like, I don't want to be on punishment. But he would leave, and he had a lock on the outside of his door, and he would literally lock me in his room. And I would sit, and like he had sisters, and they would sit on the outside of the door and talk to me until he came home.
What?
But I couldn't climb out the window because he was up in the attic. So yeah.
That just, even hearing that, like, that just sounds wild.
Nah, yeah, that sounds ridiculous.
crazy.
And so to take it to another level, not only was that happening to her, but his sisters clearly, like, that was normal behavior.
Yeah.
So they're like talking to her on the outside the door like she's
Like
a little
it's regular.
dog. Slipping, or a prisoner. And so I can't imagine what they have.
I can't. we grew close, and I don't. The sisters and I, and I don't know. It was he didn't do that to anyone else. Just in conversations with the sister. They would tell me a whole lot of stuff, but it was never like, oh, he does this to.
You don't think he
this
did
and
it to
this and this and this? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
That's just wild.
Honestly, yeah, like red flags, they can be they range. Like, some are small ones, like X, for example, and then there are like some big major red flags where it's like help needs to be sought out.
Yeah.
So like, with your red flags, how long did it take for you to like realize some, like, it was after some like deep reflection, or was it like someone on the outside telling you like this behavior is unacceptable and things need to change?
I think for me in that particular case, he was my boo. He was, but
No need to get all mushy about it.
Once he started saying like, I could chop you up and put you in this closet and nobody will ever find you, I was like, yeah, you know what?
Red flags and roses.
This is
No
this is a
roses,
lot.
just red flags.
This is a lot, you know. This is a lot, and I think a lot of it too was like he never raised his voice at me. He never hit me, right? But I think it was just a matter of just that control, that manipulation. He was a few years older than me, but I think it was just like he just wanted to have that control.
It was kind of like an obsession, sort of.
Yeah,
and like going back to what you said earlier about having someone say that they're only happy when they're with you. It's like kind of obsession because it's like, why can't you be happy without me? Don't you have your own life? Because
obsession and depression, you know, and self-esteem and the whole, you know, and I think the stuff like that is way more common than people talk about, you know, and I don't know whether it happens with more young girls or young men. It might be equal, I don't know, but like those type of comments are said a lot, you know, with like, oh, you know, you make me happy, you complete me, yada yada yada, and it's just, you know, those are definitely red flags, and whether they're red flags for you to run away from the person, I can't speak to. However, they're red flags for a person to be aware of and to take note of. And I think the biggest thing with red flags, in my opinion, is when you ignore things constantly, then it manifests in other things. And I feel like even in our relationship, you know, as an artist, and I say this, and Leah's like, you know, there's the reality is artists, whether you're a painter, whether you are an actor, whether you do music, like artists see the world a certain way. And artists just think a certain way. Now, Leah's an artist also, but in a different way, right?
Everyone's a different artist.
She's creative, right? And she produces in a different way, but her, you know, artistry, for lack of better terms, like Martha Stewart, right? And how Martha Stewart will do stuff in crafting and like, you know, a fashion designer putting stuff together. Like that's more Leah's bag in a certain sense. She could do whatever she wants to think about doing, she'll do it. Me, I'm more like, I can't walk into an empty room and see the possibilities of, oh, you know, if you put a wall there and you put shelves there, and if you knock this wall down and add, I don't have that type of foresight, right? However, I can hear a song and create what that's going to be. Or I can hear a story and be inspired and then recreate and do something else. And so I say all that to say, coming up, everything about being an artist was selfish because it's me. So everything I do or don't do dictates my next thing, whatever that is. But in a relationship, everything in a relationship is selfless. So it's a matter of turning that off when I come home. And it's not a matter of, I'm not taking the trash out. Do you know who I am? But it's in a matter of like something that I used to do that for me made sense at the time. But now that I'm older, it's just like, yeah, it's kind of wild. But I would do, you know, I would have shows and she would come to some of them. It wasn't a prerequisite that Leah had to come to all of my shows. I didn't, that wasn't a thing for me. Some people are like, oh, you got to come. It's just like, because I always wanted, I use this loosely, I always wanted like the real fan or real reaction. I don't want like the
forced reaction.
I don't want like the you know.
Oh, that's my dude, so I'm gonna give it up.
Or like the American Idol, people are awful, right? And they're like, oh, and then they get backstage and they don't make it, and the mom's like, oh, they just don't understand you, baby. You'll get them next time. I don't want that. I want the raw, the real. Like if I'm gonna get booed, I want to hear it.
Facts.
Right. So, you know, Leah would come to some shows and we live with each other, so we would go to the show together, and I would get off the stage and I would shake hands with people and hug people, and Leah's like, here, shake hands, hug, shake hands, skip right over her, shake hands, hug. In my mind, it's like, yo, we just came together. Like we live with each other. Why, you know? But for her, it's like, really, you just walk past me and I'm your biggest supporter and you're just gonna ignore. And so that happened a lot. I didn't realize the damage that was doing, and it kept being like scabs. Like, you know, it was starting to heal and then you pick it off again. Starting to heal, pick it off again. So, you know, and there's, you know, me taking pictures with people and like,
being flirtatious. Like for me, it was cute. However, publicly, it looks a certain way, right? And that's the
Right.
artist and the selfish part. But home, like I'm paying for that. And I always make jokes like, damn, like the stuff that I did that caused issues at home and massive like repair that I had to do. I wish I would have actually done what was assumed that I did if I'm already paying for it anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
So-
like doing time for robbing a store, but you
But you
didn't
didn't
rob
rob the store.
I just went in and just asked them, hey, you know, if I hypothetically,
Rob the store. What'd
you
you
know
do?
what I mean? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I had to do a lot of paying. I'm still paying. Right there.
Trust is earned, definitely.
Yeah.
It's earned and spent.
Sounds like you have something to say about that.
So here's the deal,
A
right? No, and he just spoke all truths, right? Except the fact that if I really believed that lines were crossed in that way, you wouldn't have to be paying for anything. You would just be on your own figuring it out. Like, I didn't believe that you were robbing the store, so to speak, right? My problem was, it's just you're not creating boundaries. And I think that goes a long way in any relationship with your parents, with your friends, with your cousins. Like boundaries need to be created and respected. And when those boundaries weren't being created, what it was allowing people to do on the outside was disrespect our union, right? And as a wife, as a girlfriend, as a fiance, for me, I just didn't like the fact that if I react based off your disrespect, it's going to look like I'm this crazy, insecure woman, right? So don't put me in that position. So that's what you were paying for. Got it?
In the words of the great Sean Carter,
Okay.
if I shoot you, I'm brainless. You shoot me, famous. What's it gonna do?
Yeah.
Streets is watching.
They
Red
are.
flags and roses.
Yeah.
As y'all speak, I was recently looking into, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Carl Jung. He was a Swiss psychologist, and one of the theories he came up with was the understanding of the shadow self, and how to truly become harmonious within yourself, you have to integrate that parts of you that you don't really find to be so acceptable. And while y'all speak, it flows. Like, you guys can joke with each other. You guys can openly discuss the parts that may be painful that a lot of other couples can't speak about. And that takes in my opinion, a whole lot of healing, and I commend y'all genuinely for that, to be able to just speak about it and be as like loving as y'all are with it. A question I have to that though, in general, in a sense, is what do you all feel is the importance of healing before love? Like, do you think you need to heal before you find love, or do you feel like you can just find love and heal in that? Or just, what would y'all say on that?
Or even better, love heals.
Yeah. So, I mean, there used to be a thing that they used to say, the way to get over a relationship or the way to get over a man is to get underneath another one, right?
They
And
only
the
said that in Roxbury and your friends. Because I never really heard that. Like,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like, that's not a thing a lady would ever really say.
So that's been said,
Just putting that out
right?
There's
Right?
some truth to it.
That's been said, right? Now, for me, I feel like in order for you to fully be invested, and that's to be in a relationship, like you need to fully be invested, not only in that person, but more so in yourself. The only way that you can give yourself and be true to yourself is to actually heal, right? So you can go get up underneath Tom, Dick, and Harry if you want to, right? But you're going to still have all that baggage. But some of those bags are going to be empty. They're going to be heavy, but they're going to be empty.
Like there's this thing called like phantom pregnancy. They go through the whole situation, and it's not even, they come to find out there was never a baby in there.
Yeah.
The belly grows and all of that.
Yeah.
And that's real. That's where would you say that comes from? Like, do you feel like that's something that they develop on their own, or is that something that actually is, like, is there some reality to that phantom?
To the phantom, there is some reality to it. So from my understanding of the actual phantom pregnancy, some people, they are actually pregnant, but they lose the baby, and they lose the baby in utero, and they still go through that whole process. Then there's other cases where it's literally just it's
in the head.
I want to say something, but I can't. I don't think. It's in the head. Yeah. It's a mind trick. I can say that. It's a mind trick.
It's a mind trick. Absolutely.
Yeah. Where your mind, like, you're really, like, something in your brain is saying that this is happening, and it makes your body really react that way. Yeah.
Okay. So what are some ways you guys heal yourself before getting into a relationship? Before, yes. And while too, because that's also very important, because love is always growing, it's changing, because people change and grow.
I mean, it's tough because it's I think this same question is gonna be answered differently to a new relationship, or two people who were divorced and found new love. For us, like, we were growing up and figuring things out. And it's and even though there's a beauty in meeting young and growing up, I'm still on a fence of what I would prefer, right? Because just think about your child. You grow up with your parents, or one parent, or grandmother, or whomever, right? You grow up, you have rules, you have curfews, you have things you can't do, and make sure you wash the dishes before you go to bed, and this, that, and the third, and don't touch the soda. If you touch it, you got to replace it. Then you finally get on your own. You have an apartment, you go to school, dorm room, whatever. Then you meet someone and you move in with them. And then you might be a person where you put the seat down all the time, and you put the cap on the toothpaste, and your person leaves the seat up and takes the cap off. And you have to, like, figure that out. Then you have children, and then everything you grew up understanding and believing and holding on to, this person's the opposite. And so now that happens, and it's just constantly like, and not to mention your career goals and everything you're trying to do in life, and the struggles that you have. And if you're, the feeling of a black man walking outside and just society, that feeling, that's, or a black, like, so it's all these things that you're learning, but also trying to learn and understand and have tolerance for someone else, and it's just like, that's a lot, and people make it look easy, but it's a lot. And so, I think the healing together is definitely, therapy, and just because you're in therapy doesn't mean I feel like I'm ignoring you. I'm sorry.
No, you good.
I feel like just because you're in therapy doesn't mean it's a good therapist. And just because you're in therapy doesn't mean that you're using your therapist appropriately. And we got to the point where things was good, or we felt like things were good in our relationship. And when we had our therapy sessions, we would talk about, like, frivolous stuff, right? And, like, the whole session would go by and nothing was really
resolved,
addressed, right? Yeah. And those things would manifest later for different reasons. And so, I think that there's a million books, and there's a million podcasts, and there's a million YouTube videos where people are experts and blah, 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 right? But I think life experience is the best teacher. And I think if you lead with kindness and understanding, you'll have a better result. And for me, it's a matter of trying to make her smile every day in some way, right? And trying to do something kind for her. Now, whether she receives it, because, again, the Roxbury laying under a new person.
Yeah, I hate her.
You know what I mean? Like, what wife says that? You know what I mean? On camera, no less.
The thing is that when I learned about that, I was not a wife. Sure. I wasn't even your girlfriend. Sure. So,
I've seen those group texts.
You have not. Anyway, the way that I heal, even now, and back then, and it's not a matter of just being in, a relationship or a marriage, right? Like, sometimes I just have to be done with all the people around me, right? Because y'all are just you're weighing me down. I hop on a plane. I go to the beach, and
Travel.
I am.
Don't encourage
Right?
that.
Why?
No, because it's like the world's so big, you're so small. What are you living for if you're not exploring the world that
You
you're?
can travel and go to the beach in the Cape, you know.
So no, that ain't the
Oh,
same.
Revere Beach is actually a really nice
And
beach.
only
Shout out to
only-
Revere Beach. It's so underrated.
Only someone from Dorchester would say that.
I'm from Roxbury,
Yeah,
home of God.
can't tell. Not the way you be dragging it.
Oh.
Next question. I can't.
But yeah, so that's where I find my inner peace, my healing. And I think that people fail to realize that it's really important to take time for yourself, right? So when I am at the beach, looking at that glorious turquoise water with the soft powder sand between my toes, I'm connecting with self.
Or brown water.
No, I don't do
Shout out to
that.
Revere Beach.
Yeah.
It's so underrated.
Yeah.
I do massages. I was supposed to have one yesterday,
Mhm.
and it got canceled. But you know, either that or I'll do a float. You know, if you've never done a float, it's unbelievable.
Float therapy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
unless you're claustrophobic, it might be a little tough.
It's a little tough.
So it's a pod, and it's salt water. It's warm water, and it's salt. It's like 10,000 pounds of salt or something like that. And so the moment you got to take a shower and wash up before, and then you get in this pod, and you have the lights off, or you can have it on, you know, and it like strobes, and you get in the water and you float. So you can either be like this, or you could do this, or you can do like a fetal position. But like it's unbelievable, and you can either do 60 minutes, 90 minutes. I've never done 90. I've only done 60. But I'm doing that
listen.
down the street.
He can do
I'm
that
literally,
all he
I'm
wants.
literally 30 minutes from the house. I do a 60-minute float. I wash up. I come home. I have a little bit of salt in my ears. I come home and I'm loving on her. She goes away for 10 days.
Why are you so mad?
She goes away for 10 days and then she extends it and goes to another place, which is that. Talk about red flag in a relationship. Oh, that was a bad thing. Now, she did it as a result of something that I did.
No, I
but
did
she
it.
still shouldn't have done that.
Listen.
Again, in the words of Jay-Z,
The
Sean
red flag
Carter,
you
the
just
great,
did.
I know the way living was whack, but you don't look back like that.
Huh.
I'm a man with pride. You don't do like that.
You do, right? Because
Exactly.
for me, I'm an educator, so I can teach you better than I can tell you.
No.
So learn this lesson, baby.
Jesus. What's the next
All
question?
right.
Nah, 'cause I definitely want to comment on that, like, because y'all seem to have not even seem to, y'all have a really go as you go, not even
Told you.
go with the flow, but go as you go. It's interesting though, because like you said, when you have, so dealing with yourself or learning how to love yourself is one thing. Learning how to love yourself with another person is another thing. Learning how to love yourself for another person as well is also, because I think and I've never been married, so that's, you feel me, but it's interesting because I think in all of the conversations I've ever had with married people, or any ones that were open for it, it was kind of like there was multiple reasons to love yourself and love the other person. But then add on top of that, a child comes into the play, and this is a whole nother life. This is not just like someone who understands the world already. No, like your relationship is a direct influence on how they perceive the entire world. Where would y'all say you have children, or
Yep, we have children.
where would you say your children like not necessarily stand per se, but what kind of impact did they have on the way y'all perceived self-love and the way y'all perceive the love y'all have amongst each other?
Thank you for everyone tuning in for this very important discussion. We will see you guys next week for part 2. Thank you again. With love, be the change that you want to see in the world. Be kind to each other. Make sure you properly identify red flags and roses. It can literally be life or death. Shout out to Beat the Odds, Red Flags and Roses. Be sure to go to their Instagram, go to their YouTube, and subscribe. We'll see y'all next week. You know what it is. We're locked and loaded. Yeah, we're locked and loaded.
Well, locked and loaded.